I had this patient that had very low motivation that it got so bad to a point where most days he couldn't even get out of bed, but even got to a point where he was about to lose his job. And when he came to me, he told me he had tried all the different types of supplements. In fact, he was even taking his ADHD medication, which he found that also was not helping with his motivation. And after getting on the phone with him for the first time, I told him, well, of course these supplements aren't working for you, is because you're taking all the common supplements that really don't address lack of motivation. So I showed him the 5 supplements that actually do work with lack of motivation. But the very first thing I had to do with him is understand the root cause of why he had this lack of motivation to begin with. And also to understand why was his medication not working and why all these different supplements he was taking not working. So I had to do some lab work. The very first thing I wanted to look at was the possibility of the different imbalances in his neurotransmitters and the different neurotransmitter pathways. And sure enough, the thing that did come back was he did have significantly low dopamine levels because he had ADHD, and having low dopamine will impact your motivation for sure. But the important thing was, why was the medication not working? Well, it's because there's something you have to look at even before trying to just target dopamine directly. And that's something like L-DOPA. L-DOPA is the beginning process of building dopamine. And what I decided to incorporate was mucuna prurines, which is a great way to improve L-DOPA, which is then going to improve dopamine. But also taking it another step further on top of that, I also tested his amino acids and found out that his tyrosine levels were low. And he told me, yeah, he was taking tyrosine, but didn't see much of a change. That's because if you just take random L-tyrosine, it might not be as well absorbed. So I added something called N-L-acetyl-tyrosine, which is more easily absorbed. And when I added just these 2 things, within just 2 days, he sent me a message and told me, oh my goodness, this is like a night and day difference for me. I'm able to get out of bed. I feel more motivated. I feel I have more drive, and I haven't felt like this in years. And it was just those 2 simple things. But this was just the beginning, because he certainly had some other areas that needed some improvement to have more of that long-lasting effect of motivation throughout the day. If we go back to the very beginning of the dopamine process, there is an excitatory neurotransmitter called phenylethylalanine, also known as PEA. And what I find when I'm testing for this is that the majority of my patients with ADHD tend to actually be low in phenylethylalanine. And when this is low, this will definitely certainly impact your dopamine pathway, which is going to impact your motivation. So the thing that I incorporate here is something called D-L-phenylalanine. Now, D-L-phenylalanine is an amino acid that builds phenylethylalanine. It also helps build tyrosine, which then, of course, tyrosine is going to build L-DOPA, and then, of course, build dopamine levels to help improve motivation. Once I incorporated this with him, he even had better results. He told me not only was his motivation was helping to improve throughout the day, but also he felt like his focus and memory was improving along with it. And this is the same common story that I see with all my patients and clients, that we find that their phenylethylalanine levels to being low. Now, it doesn't just stop there, because there's other different neurotransmitter pathways that do impact our motivation. Things such as serotonin as well as GABA. Both of those neurotransmitter pathways can impact our motivation, our mood significantly. Now, he was definitely significantly low also in serotonin and GABA levels, which do impact our mood and also impact our motivation and drive. This is why depressed people will have low serotonin levels, but also have low norepinephrine levels that can impact motivation, just like people with ADHD. So when I saw this, one of the most important amino acids that you can implement to help with all 3 pathways is L-theanine, because L-theanine helps improve serotonin. It also crosses the blood-brain barrier to improve GABA levels, and it also has been known to help with dopamine and norepinephrine. So it's definitely one of my favorite ones. And when we added this, not only did he feel more relaxed, but he also had more motivation and drive, because he would tend to be very stressed. And when you can reduce the stress in your life, motivation will kick in more, and you can have better focus throughout the day and improving on that motivation. If you're looking for a full guide to improve your focus, your motivation, and improve your energy, then download my free all-day energy and focus guide in the description below. Now, another story I want to share with you, and this is something I see overlooked a lot when it comes to motivation. Motivation, in my opinion, is very tied and connected with low energy. I see all the time with my adult patients that I work with ADHD is they tend to be burnt out. So I had a patient that did have ADHD and she was struggling with motivation, but she also had very low energy. And I did implement all these other 4 supplements that I just listed, and she had a slight improvement, but not to the point that I would have liked to seen her have. And so I thought to myself, okay, we need to do some further investigation to see what it also possibly could be. And this is when I decided to go into looking into hormones, as well as looking into possible micronutrient deficiencies that can impact not only energy, but also your motivation as well. There are 2 things that were critical that I found in her test results. One being her cortisol levels being low throughout the day. Cortisol has everything to do with improving our energy. Think about it as the hormone that just basically gives us energy to wake us up in the morning. It's something the adrenals release, and it was shot. It was low throughout the entire day. So something that I needed to incorporate was something like adrenal desiccated, or I use something like adrenal support from Vital Nutrients to help improve those cortisol levels. But also her micronutrient test levels came back, and what I found there is that her vitamin D3 levels were significantly low. Now, vitamin D3 can definitely impact our motivation and our energy at the same time. So I added 10,000 IUs of vitamin D for 3 months, combined it with vitamin K2. It's important to combine a more fat soluble with vitamin D3, and then tapered it down to a 5,000 IUs after 3 months, along with vitamin K2. And within 1 week, she reported back to me that she finally had the increased motivation and drive, improved energy, so much so that she was able to stop her ADHD medication and didn't need to be reliant on it, because it was those 2 factors. Sometimes it can be so simple to this. And I find this time and time again, if you are someone that is struggling with lack of motivation, there's probably a chance that you also are dealing with significantly low energy. So you should watch this video next, where I talk about the 5 supplements that actually do help improve energy if you're dealing with fatigue. So watch this video next.